Moving iron.
Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast number 304. This edition of Moving Iron Podcast is brought to you by Arrow, and I got co-founder and CEO of Arrow, Charles Anderson, on here again. So, Charles, how you doing this morning, man?
I am good. Not cold like how you are. Nice and warm.
It is.
But I'm doing good.
It is chilly. It is chilly. So how things been, man, since we talked last?
Oh, very exciting. We introduced Cloud Store a couple of weeks ago. That's moving really, really well. List for free. As we talked about, get your assets out there. That's working, and really wanted to. So just to clarify, am I really the third 304th podcast today?
Of the Moving Iron Podcast, yeah, I think there's close to about 1,000 altogether, but this is the 304th one I've done under the Moving Iron Podcast. Like,
that's a lot.
Theme.
Who was number 300? I feel like I should have got a balloon or something for being number 300.
I don't have to go back and look. I don't remember. I've done by 15 since then. So yeah, it's I don't have to go back and look.
So funny. No, but joking aside, doing really well. Grateful for this opportunity. It was a big lift in our business to start getting word out about Cloud Store, and the buyers are happy, dealers are happy. So I want to keep going in that lane, and want to spend a lot of time talking today about marketing automation, because I've been getting a lot of those questions. So that it might be interesting to share some best practices we're learning right now.
Yep. Marketing automation. I'll tell you what, customer automation, marketing automation, engaging with your customer base, what's that look like and how those things work, is getting to be not that it wasn't important before, but it's getting to be a bigger and more important part of the implement business now, because of the sheer volume of equipment that's out there, and then the price that we see on some of this used piece, on these used equipment pieces that we see. So how are you tackling that? Like, that's such a huge part of that, man. You know what I mean? Where are we going to go with a $600,000 four-wheel drive and a $500,000 combine and a $400,000 real crop trap? I mean, where are we going with all that stuff, and who are we contacting, how are we doing all that? It's great to use the same customer base that you've used always, and the same information that you've had out there for years and years and years to go off of. But the game is changing and the customer base is changing. So how are you guys addressing that over there at Arrow and Cloud Store?
Sure. It's very, I think it's really interesting. I might be the only one, but I think it's so interesting that the only reason why a customer interacts with us with Cloud Store, with any dealer in person or digital, is because they're trying to solve a problem.
Right. And
I know 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it really scared people when they saw targeted ads. When you would look for an Xbox or a PlayStation, then all of a sudden you start seeing Xbox and PlayStation ads follow you all over the internet, and you see it in your Gmail account, and you see it everywhere. And then there was that whole debate on, should I see content that is only relevant to me? And Facebook is one of the ones that is leading that charge, and they've gotten in trouble a few times because they've overly gotten that right, where they've said, yes, we're going to show you information that is only relevant to you, and that there's a whole political conversation around all that. But setting all that aside, what's interesting now about how equipment buyers are figuring out what they want to buy is 100% of the time they have some sort of problem they're trying to solve, or some sort of opportunity they're trying to capitalize on. And so when I think about marketing automation, to me, it's just getting information in front of the customer as easily as possible through the process of communication. So going back to that text message example that we talked about before, if you thought about the conversations that you usually have with a customer looking to buy an implement, how do those conversations usually go? Like, just give me an example of one.
I usually call up and they're asking to look at a piece of equipment, and you kind of run through what you have and start asking questions about, what's your budget look like? How big of a tractor do you have? What are you doing with it? Those kind of things. What's your time frame? All those kind of things start to come into play, where you're really doing the whole needs analysis kind of breakdown of what the customer already knows they want, and they're just calling you to see what you have. and you're kind of running through that whole gambit of needs analysis and all that fun stuff.
How many questions would you say you typically have to go through in order to flush out the needs analysis?
Well, I think that largely depends on. I think it largely depends on your relationship with the customers you're talking to. But if it's someone that you've never done business with, they just show up and you're running through that gamut of questions. I could probably think of probably 8 to 10 questions that you'd ask the person to kind of get a good feel for what it is that they're trying to accomplish at the end.
Yep. So let's take a house as an example. That's a really easy illustration. All of us either live in a house or bought a house or swap an apartment for the word house. Mm-hmm. But if I was the machine, I'm the self-driving Tesla car, and you are the human looking to figure out like what do you want? It's probably going to go some version of this conversation right here. Hello, how are you today? Where are you looking to buy your house? And you would say, make it up.
Big Fork, Montana.
Perfect. How big of a house do you want?
Big enough for me and my wife. That way my kids don't have to stick around for very long.
How many bedrooms?
3 bedrooms.
How many bathrooms?
2 bathrooms.
How big of a garage? How many cars?
3-car garage.
So the purpose of going through that conversation, I just wanted to point out, me as the computer, I don't care how you feel. And you as the buyer, you don't care whether or not if I care about how you feel. You want me to know exactly what you're looking for as fast and as easy as possible so I can give you options. I'm not saying that computers will replace the humans, because there will be a step in the process where the human will need to give some texture and some context. Yeah, you don't want to live in this neighborhood because of the flight pattern. You don't want to live over here because of the schools. And there's other soft things that are going to be, for now, hard for the computer to understand because they're more emotional. But with those first 8 questions, I've done this enough times. I've gone through that same 8-question pattern again and again. I would be shocked if most of those 8 questions we couldn't return with an unemotional, fact-based response. What do you think?
I think you're probably right, because I mean, even on the influence side of the business, I mean, it's not like I'm asking 8 questions and those are going to be the guy I'm talking to is got some kind of a excuse me. The person I'm talking to is doing something completely different than the other people around them, right?
Right.
It's that 8-question database that you're running through there is going to probably encompass 95% of the exact, the same information is going to extract from somebody else. It's probably those next 2 questions that you're going to get that final 5% of something that's unique to their business, right? And those are the kind of things that are going to differentiate. Are you looking for, a high-speed disc or a conventional disc? Are you looking for, 4-wheel drive or I mean, those kind of things are going to be the little indicators that are going to start coming through that are going to really drill down to the specific problem or specific job that they're trying to accomplish with that piece of equipment.
Yes. So for me, marketing automation is really 2 things: asking the right question and then asking the next question again and again and again. And so if you can do that as you think through a marketing funnel, meaning how many people do you talk to? How many questions do you ask them? How many times you get the next right question accurate? It actually benefits both sides, because as we ever established, our customers would prefer to text. They prefer to really simply hit the button, get exactly what they're looking for. And so how do you now leverage technology to smooth out that experience for the buyer? Make it really easy for me to figure out what I'm trying to buy. Make it easy for me to figure out if you have it available in stock. I don't need a human to answer those questions. Those things can be done until I get stuck. So marketing automation, that's what it means to me, is look at the lead funnel and look at the questions that the lead funnel needs to walk through, and then do it again and again and again and again until you have a Tesla driving down the road without anyone touching the steering wheel.
Right. Yeah. And that's the kind of, and then being able to target those customers that would be interested in that before they know they're interested in it. I mean, it's like the Amazon model, where they claim they know what you're going to buy 10 days before you buy it, which
it's a little creepy.
It's a little creepy that they can do that, but I would love to see that data and how that works, how that flow of data works and what that looks like.
Interesting.
And do that. So I think, to me, it's interesting to have that in place. But that being said, those targeted questions, like you just said, and being able to ask the next right question, what does that look like? Is that now I'm not wasting the customer's time.
Yes.
With that information, I'm going to them with, I think this is what you're wanting to do. And I think this is how am I on the right path? Yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. Or nope, you're so far off that you don't even understand what I'm talking about. So we need to go back to the drawing board and do it all over again. It's that trying to compress that time from the time that I offer you a piece of equipment to you giving me a check for the piece of equipment, is trying to compress that down as tight and as quick as you can, because again, it all comes down to, I don't want to waste your time. If you're not interested in that particular piece, what are you interested in? And let's move forward and figure out what that is. And I might not be able to come up with the solution that you're looking for. I may not have access to it or whatever it is, and I need to help you find that next best solution, whether I'm involved in it or not. That's just again, it comes down to compressing that time of how fast we're going to make things happen, and that's such an important part of that.
Everyone has the same 24 hours in the day, and as we've seen now, and especially in the ag market, the operations are becoming larger and more sophisticated and less emotional, much more experience based, much more data based, much less personality based. And we're seeing it again and again and again, that with autonomous vehicles coming right around the corner, you can really operate these machines using a spreadsheet. I mean, I'm exaggerating a lot, but at least until a big rock shows up in the middle of the yard, and you have to figure out, like, what do you do? And the computer breaks. A lot of the heavy lifting can now be done through math and through technology. And so if those things are true, it's really a question of, like, how do you qualify each other? How do you use technology? Google does it all day long. It's sending me things and options that I care about. It's the same thing that Facebook does. We just haven't really adopted it to the buyer journey, because buyers want to get as far as they can over texting.
Right. Yeah, and that's good. And then you bring that point back up again, to where, again, the compressing that thing down. In today's marketplace, when someone's called me from whatever state, someone calls me from Ohio, and they're calling me about a piece of equipment that I have listed on the internet, right? They're not kicking tires, right? It's not like they're going to their local dealership and trying to burn a few hours of the day because they have nothing else to do, right? They've done the research on whatever it is that they're doing. And when they're making that phone call to me, they're 80% sure that they want that piece of equipment that they're looking at.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And now they're getting that other 20% of that data collection, which is they've already asked the right questions. They know the answer to that. And so now we're back to like the final 2 or 3 questions that are going to, drill into what it is why do they want that specific piece of equipment? What is it about this piece of equipment? And, you're in Ohio, I'm in Nebraska. Why? That's a long ways away to bring whatever across, and trying to find out it's got a specific spec in there that they're looking for, right? It's got whatever, a specific thing that does it's going to have a specific return on their operation that they're looking for, residue management or whatever it is, and they can't find it anywhere else. So, and it's the right price or whatever it is, So I think those are all the things that you bring into that when you start looking at how are you categorizing your customer base, and how are you looking at how are you going to approach that. Now, if I start having 3 or 4 customers,
question for you. Question for you on that. So let's say that there was a way, hypothetically, let's call him Bob, make up the name, that instead of Bob calling you, you could raise your hand and reach out to Bob before Bob reaches out to you. Because in your illustration, you just had Bob go through the heavy lifting of doing 80% of the research ahead of time, finding you, and then calling you, getting you on the phone, and connecting to you. So my point of view is that there is a way that you can reach out to Bob, and I'm happy to show you, to explain how that works, but you can actually reach out to Bob through technology before Bob even knows that you exist.
And there's on the farming side of data collection, there's more data collection on it, on individual customers that you can go out and get. And that's just readily available, right? You don't have to go through some secret back door someplace and do some shady thing, whatever. It's just readily available through various government agencies. I mean, to your point, I've thought about that a million times. I mean, there's enough data out there to know everything there is to know about every agricultural buyer in North America, and you could seriously target every one of those with what you have in your inventory based around the data that you can collect.
Yeah.
Right?
Or how about Siri recording all of our conversations, or Alexa?
Sure.
That's a whole other conversation, but it's all out there.
Yeah.
Did you know, this is a little bit alarming, but did you know that with your first name, last name, and physical home address, I could pull up your social security number?
Oh, sure. Yeah. There's all kinds of stuff out there that if you pay enough money and subscribe to the right things, you can get whatever data you want on anybody.
100%. It's so violating, especially, I mean, Facebook got red-handed with this. It's so all of the information, whose friends that you're connected to, which social media groups, on, things that you have said online, things that were posted, things that you liked, all of these things. And now it's at the point, back to the Bob example, it's at the point now that there are systems that allow you as a dealer to get an alert that says Bob in Ohio is searching for this spec right now.
Right.
Do you want to send him an option?
Yeah. Yep.
And do you want to automate the first 8 questions that you're going to ask him anyways?
Yeah. And all that's out there, man. I mean, that technology is readily available. It's not anything that's out of the ordinary or
no,
anything other than what you would normally see happen in a day-to-day conversation. And if I remember right, the last thing I saw that between like Facebook and Amazon and folks like that have of the customer bases that they interact with, which is everybody, roughly 5,000, information points for each person that they have in their database.
I believe it. I believe it.
I mean, that's, I don't know what 5,000 things they could possibly be collecting, but that's everything and anything. So that's where all this predictive analytics come into play and all these different approaches to which, and it goes back again to, as creepy as all that sounds, but it also comes back to the fact of, I'm not here to waste your time. I'm here to get this done as fast as we can. And I'm not going to show you a 25 horsepower tractor when you're looking for a 300 horsepower tractor.
Yes.
Right? I'm not going to spend my time. I'm not going to waste my time or my advertising dollars or my budget advertising 25 horsepower tractors to you when you have no intent of ever buying anything. And you're not even going to look at what I give you, right? What you're interested in is 300. So that's just, again, coming back to giving the right pieces of information to the right people and targeting those specific things that you're interested in.
I just think it's so interesting because 25 years ago, we didn't want this. Like 25 years ago, we wanted a slower process to figure out, to learn about each other and to figure out the right answer to the question. And it's just the information age now. Like my kids I heard my son the other day, he's 10 years old. I overheard him asking Siri a question on how to spell something. Like, man, that would have been nice to have in 4th grade. Hey, Siri, how do I spell because you should trip me up. But like the information is so available today, and that has completely changed how we interact with each other, that it's like the facts are out there. It's now just getting access to what you want as fast as possible.
Right. Well, that's one of those things where, again, kind of back to that the speed of what people are used to getting their information now. I mean, when you and I were going to school, if I wanted to figure out and I didn't know this from memory, if I wanted to find who the 27th president of the United States was, I had to go to the library, get an encyclopedia, run through till I found the 27th president, and then who knows how long that takes. Now I can just go, hey Siri, and the next thing you know, boom. Yeah, I'm sitting there with the 27th president 3.5 seconds later. That all translates back into the speed of how people want a transactional situation to take place.
Yes, correct.
Once they've made their mind up that they're ready to buy this piece of equipment or buy this whatever, they're ready to do that. And it's then kind of like our previous conversation about going to a car dealership or whatever it is, and you just want to go buy the car. The next thing you know, it's 4.5 hours later, and someone's asking if you want clear coat protection for your car.
Disaster.
Those kind of. I mean, it's just no. I just want the car.
No,
I don't need to.
No.
So that's the process that we're in right now. It's just that how fast can we get things done? I'm ready to move forward. Let's go. And automating that information is just so important.
Another way to ask the question is, let's say that I was a brand new tractor buying customer, and I had a brand new farm, and I was ready to get started, and I called you, and you were my only call. What are the odds that I'm not going to fact check everything you say? Yeah, Charles, you're going to need this 1-series tractor and this 5-series tractor, and you're going to do this. I just don't believe that in today's world, I'm going to spend $1 million or $2 million without at least having a second conversation.
Sure.
Or a third conversation. So it just goes to the fact that even if the human is my only option, I'm still going to fact check the human because there's so much information that's out there. I'm going to do that probably with technology. So we can go the other direction and say marketing automation comes second. It's still going to show up because the human is going to be tested against the machine.
Sure. Yeah. And I think to your point about fact checking and all those kind of things, you hear a lot of conversations about, loyalty and how it's not the same as it was. And you're right. It's not the same as it was. There's still very loyal customers out there and that do, that want to do business with the local person. But where I think the loyalty comes into what, this perception of the lack of loyalty is, you're quoting me this machine for it, whatever. And I go out and find the exact same thing and it's 25% less. Well, I mean, that's a business decision that you're making at that point. I mean, what are you giving me for that extra 25% that makes it worth it? And is a local dealership worth more than the dealership that's, 200 miles away, that's not going to, when your machine breaks down during harvest, isn't going to come out and take care of your stuff? I would argue that yes, you're paying a convenience fee. That's part of that, right? If you're 200 miles away and they're going to come out and fix it, then that's a whole different thing. But you got to play that and look at that and weigh those things all play out. And I think that's where the auction market has gotten to be such a bigger part of what we're doing here. That why the auction market is doing so the way it's doing is because people are looking at that and saying, here's a better option for me, and I'm willing to take some of the inconveniences that come along with buying this over here. So it's a whole thing that I think is going to have to, again, evolving marketplace. And we've talked about it, 3 to 5 years from now, it's going to look completely different than it looks now. And how are you positioning yourself with your customer base moving forward is going to be such a big part of the way I do business, you do business across the spectrum. Whether, I don't care if you're buying a loaf of bread or a car, it's the way you're doing that's going to change, and how we are marketed by these companies is going to change.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree.
Yep. Good stuff. All right, Charles, any final thoughts on that before we close it down?
Oh, I think it's a fascinating time to watch this industry move online, and the buyers have already moved online. I think the dealers are catching up really fast. And the whole point of what I wanted to share today, the whole point of my point of talking about marketing automation is that you can be more efficient with your time if you use the machine being technology, marketing automation, to allow your customers to further qualify themselves. That's it.
Yep. Because when they come back to you, they're ready to move forward.
Yes.
And kind of for lack of a better term, the bullshit's been taken care of. They're ready to move forward with the actual meat and potatoes of what they want to get done. So it'll be 100% good there. So, all right, Charles, folks want to reach out to you, get more information about what you have going. What's the best way to do that?
So remember, list for free on Cloud Store. Get your assets out there. Email me if you want to list for free. Charles@cloudstore.co.
Right on. Good. Well, Charles, I appreciate you being on the podcast, man.
Thanks for the time. It's always fun.
Right on. I'm Casey Seymour. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Moving Iron LLC. You can go to LinkedIn at Moving Iron Podcast, and you can find me the video version of this on YouTube at the Moving Iron Podcast YouTube channel. So check that out there. Find anything Moving Iron related at movingironllc.com. Blog posts, the entire library of the Moving Iron Podcast, as well as information for the Moving Iron Summit coming up here in Nashville, Tennessee, September 11th through the 13th of 2023. So with that, I'm Casey Seymour with Charles Anderson. Smooth Smart, folks. Out.
Moving iron in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving iron, time and time again. Through the years, you'll find us here.